Happy Friday to you. Welcome to the opposition preview here on Back of the Net. It's a happy Friday too to Adam Smith, the Cherries right back that has extended his contract yet again. That guy, I swear, is going to be playing in a red and black shirt until he's 64. But kudos to him. Well deserved. We love him. And congratulations, Smudge. Looking forward to seeing you maraud up and down that right flank on Saturday as Chelsea arrive. A football team that is somehow at the moment trumping Manchester City for column inches, despite their northern counterparts winning titles and having constant chatter around them regarding the 115 charges. It's the Blues in West London that tend to dominate most of the tittle-tattle in the tabloids. Great alliteration. Before we begin, I could ask you for two favours if possible. Like the video, that truly helps. And if you're not a subscriber, just by tapping on the button, then it really helps us out. We'd truly appreciate it if you get on that right now. Are you going to do it? Okay, maybe not, but maybe next time, yeah? But look, all this chat around Chelsea, it's been weird over the last two seasons because everyone's been talking about them. Todd Boehly comes in, albeit a minority stakeholder. We need to underline that. But before long, he then thrusts himself into the limelight. And it was clear that throwing money around was his thing. That's a fiver, by the way. And he also said outlandish statements such as having a Premier League All-Stars game as well. Do you remember that? He also did what Eddie Mitchell did for AFC Bournemouth in that he went into the changing room after one of the game and gave the players quite a dressing down. But look, as time's gone on, he's taken a bit of a backseat. Well, I say backseat. He still wants to buy the club outright, but it's not that easy though, because he's not the majority owner of the club. And that accolade goes to Begdad Eghbali, who is the most active and powerful figure at Stamford Bridge, really. Co-founder of private equity firm Clearlake. He owns a majority 61.5% stake in the club, along with Clearlake's co-founder Jose Feliciano. They are adamant that they don't want to sell, and they're only looking to increase their stake. So there's battles on the pitch at Stamford Bridge, but battles off it too. So what kind of environment does this create? What is the direction? Where's it coming from? And how do Chelsea fans feel about the way their club is being run? So to chat, I've got Chelsea YouTube royalty with us. He was the main man on 100% Chelsea for seasons aplenty. Louis Beneventi, he's synonymous with being one of the more authentic faces, I'd say, when it comes to the Blues. But whilst he took a backseat from that project a while back, he's still the main man. And of course, he's doing plenty in and around Chelsea Football Club since. Louis, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you very much, mate. Royalty is a strong term. I would never consider myself that, but I appreciate the kind words.
And I was going to introduce you as Tunbridge Wells's finest, just because I've seen it on another podcast, but I'll save you from that.
What pod's that? Who said that about me? I'll
tell you what, that was on that. Yeah, go on.
I think I'm Joe Brands from Tunbridge Wells. Soft play. Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor who lives in Tunbridge. I was like, Tunbridge Wells finest. I don't know about that. Finest dishware, maybe.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And by the way, you got such a good name. Sam Davis is so boring compared to what you have been adorned with, my friend. So look, anyway, we need to talk about Chelsea. And look, yeah, I learned that off a great podcast that you were on called Football and Feelings, and it spoke about the sort of pressures and politics of doing a football YouTube channel and the way it can have an adverse effect on your life and mental health. But look, I mean, I've chatted to a few Chelsea fans recently who say that being a supporter of Chelsea can have that negative effect too. But whilst we'll talk about what's going on, at Stamford Bridge shortly. But in terms of you, mate, what are you up to now? Fill us in on what's been going on with your life.
So currently I'm in the process of moving flat. So I've been living in Wembley for the past few years, and it's like literally this week and next week is hell week. That is when it's sort of like, okay, right, we've got to knuckle down. So I'm doing that. But I'm currently working on a new project. Have been for like the past 18 months. Well, it's a new project of an old format. So when I left 100% Chelsea, I was handed the reins to the Chelsea Echo by Simon Phillips and his team over there. And basically that kind of, we couldn't really figure out how to make that work. So that ended up just taking a back seat. I was doing obviously the Imperial War for the football club for a bit, retrained to be a barber. I've done so many things over the past few years, just trying to figure out where I'm going. And then I've kind of landed back at the Chelsea Echo. So we're working with a new company now called The Sideline, and we're basically trying to give a 360-degree perspective of football. So fans, journalists, ex-pros, current pros, everyone involved we're working with. It's been fantastic. And then I'm boxing as well. So yeah, it's been a mad year. So I've started training for my fight. Probably going to be March next year. They're looking at as a date. It's been pushed back a couple of times, mainly because I've got the same injury record as Abu Diaby. But we're getting there slowly. Lost 20 kilos, so I'm working my way down now, just so I'm getting down even further.
That's superb. Fair play to you for that. Well, look, mate, we need to talk about Chelsea, and we've spoke about this on our intro as we went into it, talking about the sort of rough outline of the story with what's going on. Seems to be a little bit of a power struggle going on. As a supporter, how are you feeling about your own club right now?
I've just kind of come desensitized to it. I try not to get. Well, I don't feel. I'd say over the past 6 months, I've become far less emotionally involved, purely because I just feel the whole process has just been very demoralizing, and I don't feel there's been as much. There's not love on both sides. I think it's very fair to say. I think it's very much a marketing machine, and I think that the best example I've had so far was my dad, actually, and we were talking about it, and it's how I feel it's turned is it's very much become the stereotype of big American business going into someone with very little understanding. So my dad used the example of, I don't know, he said like we were a French pen company. I don't know, like let's say Bic was French, right?
Yeah.
And they knew their way around the French market, and they were fantastic, and they knew exactly what they're doing. They knew how to sell to that market perfectly. Yeah, it needed some tweaking. It wasn't perfect. There's no way about it. But they knew where they were going. The path was clear, and it just needed a little bit of changing. Bought out by a big American business, and they're like, well, we do it like this in the States, so this is how we're going to do it here. And it's just completely fallen apart because it doesn't work. It's not the same model. And to add to that as well, not only has it been bought out by one big American pen company, it's been two big American pen companies, and one knows how to do it on a sheet of A4, and the one uses pen on canvas, which would be weird anyway. But you know what I mean. You get the analogy. It doesn't work. It's not matching up. So, unfortunately, I don't know what the situation is. I think it's very. I think you could see from afar that the issues were there, and it's systemic. There's a lot of issues throughout the entire club. You speak to people in the media department, you look at the youth teams and the coaches, you look at the marketing, the business side of things. It's been such a big overhaul completely that the identity and the culture is not really there. So it's almost a case of I can't get emotionally involved because I don't know what I'm getting emotionally involved in. So I'm very much looking at going, well, this is what Chelsea was like, but it's a redundant point. It's a moot point. I don't want to fall into the trap of what Leeds fans did, Nottingham Forest fans did, United fans have, Liverpool fans did, Arsenal fans did. Well, this is what our club's all about, but it's not what the club's all about. I want to kind of understand the root causes and the issues before I can kind of really get involved in it. Because the more I look at it just from a business side of things, I've got a degree which is completely pointless, but in this situation, it's fantastic. I did football business. I can look at this and I can go, yeah, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't match up. This doesn't do things. And even from a footballing perspective on the football business side of things, just running a grassroots football team, obviously it's very different, but it's what they're doing on a more granular scale. And I already know how tough that is. So if you scale it even more and then come into it with no experience, it's insane to think what they've done. It almost feels like they should have just bought another Wrexham and done it their way. Because what they've done is they completely scrapped everything and they've just taken the brand and that's it. They're happy. It's like, it's tough at the minute.
Yeah. I mean, how are you feeling about your squad? I mean, the money that you've splashed out really means that success, I suppose, should be expected. But I suspect if I chat to many Chelsea fans, they're maybe just a little bit numb by now what's going on, and success maybe would be a bonus rather than a requirement this season, it seems.
I wouldn't say I look at it as a bonus. I think, again, I'm just going to bring the scale it back to business again. They've been in this for this is their third season. They asked for 4 windows, and they've not made as much progress as they'd like to, because they continue to pull different things out of everywhere. Success is a necessity now. If they keep, because they keep shifting the goalposts, because they asked for 4 windows, they've had 4 windows. Now they've had 4 windows, they turn around going, oh, well, actually, those 4 windows started 2 windows ago, so we actually need 2 more. So basically, it's this constant shifting of goalposts everywhere that I look at and I go, what's the point in this? Like, this is completely ridiculous. I think the squad, I like the idea. I'm a big fan of the contracts in terms of not the length, but in terms of the incentivization. I think that's important, because a big issue that Chelsea had in the past was player power. And now it's kind of a case of, well, if you don't uphold your end of the bargain, you can't try and hold it over us. It's very much a case of you've got to do what you've got to do. But then at the same time, there are parallels between higher wages and success at the top of the tree. So, it's striking that balance. And I'm excited by some of the talent that's been brought in, but a lot of it, very much, it's portfolio building and player hoarding in some cases. And I know Chelsea may have done that in the past, but we weren't forking out 25 to 30 million pounds for a player that's had 5 minutes of senior football. It was very much a case of, we'll spend 3 or 4 million maybe on a young player, and then we'll flip him for 25, 30. So it's massive profits. Whereas now, I think it's Angelo we bought for like 15 and we sold him for 20 or something like that. So it's like minimal, so like completely pointless in terms of sales. So I mean, for me, like the squad itself, there are some players I really like. They're almost culty figures in some cases. I think with everything that's been going on over the international break with the Barclaysman, I feel like Nicholas Jackson's a potential ballot Hall of Famer Barclaysman, but he's not someone who I look at and be like, it's like I put him in the same category as like Yakubu and Crouchard. He's not Didier Drogba, he's not Berbatov, he's not Rooney. I think obviously you've been very fortunate with me growing up with the teams that I've seen Chelsea have, which is why I'm saying I don't want to get caught up in all this things which, for other fans of other clubs have done in the past, where it's almost like a divine right. It's not a divine right to be where you are. You have to earn it, but at the same time, you need to be given the right tools to do so. And I don't think this ownership has given the correct tools to the coaches and the team to do so, because they expect certain levels of finishes, but don't want to use the money to do so. And it's tough when they're competing with, oil states and, oligarchs and massive other businesses. But that's what they signed up for. If you see an opportunity like Chelsea, they're like, okay, we've got to take it, but we want to continue to build in it. But you need to continue to build in it. You can't just take it and then just scale everything back and expect the same results. It makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got a new manager then, and we'll speak about him shortly. But I suppose Enzo Maresca, he's not the star managerial name that people would maybe associate with what Chelsea would usually be. I mean, we've gone from Lampard to Tuchel to Potter, back to Lampard for a bit, and then Poch, and now Enzo. It feels like they've been trying out different directions, and it feels like, I don't know, just from an outsider, it feels like if it's not delivered within a specific time frame, it's just a case of getting rid and getting the next man in. But Poch, he got you in 6th place, which was actually a decent achievement given how your season went. What was the feeling amongst Chelsea fans when he was let go? Or I think it was a mutual agreement, wasn't it, in the end? I think Bowley might have wanted to keep him, but it didn't quite work out.
So this is the dynamic we're talking about. So Bowley is only half of the ownership. He's not even half. He's 38%. It's Benedict Barley who's the man who's calling the shots now. Obviously, you've had Bowley had the first transfer window, which people weren't so sure about, etc., etc. I mean, it's first transfer window. There was so much change that it was. I don't envy the position he was in. He could have handled it better, but still, that was what the first window was. It was a learning curve for him, and he learned a lot from it. But Benedict Barley and the sporting directors have been the ones that have been dealing with it since then, really. And speaking of Poch, I mean, for Poch, it was very much. I thought from about. After the cup final, I thought it was a dead man walking. And then after the Arsenal game, I was very much in the position of he's definitely a dead man walking. But, there was the last 13 games where he was superb. And I thought, you know what? We're trying to gather some form here. If you look at the data, which is what they want to bang on about with these guys, I think it was if we'd beaten Aston Villa at the beginning of the season and that was the case, then Chelsea would have actually finished in the top 4. So, all the things were there to go the right direction. And it was a mutual decision because what Pochettino asked for was complete logic from a footballing standpoint. He was asking for, to keep Conor Gallagher, to keep Trevor Chalobah. He wanted to extend his contract, but that's purely because his contract ended midway through the Club World Cup, which was just an absolute mess from what was done by the sporting directors. And then aside from that, it's very much a case of, I thought he was doing a good job, but Enzo Maresca is very much, again, like you said, they've tried lots of different things. But yeah, I thought Pochettino was a solid option for another year. Keep things going, keep moving forward, go the right way. Everything was moving in the right direction. And then there we gone, we'll just change it again. It's like, because he was asking for things that made sense and he wanted more power, wanted to understand what was going on. And the sporting directors, who are completely out of their depth, went, no, we know exactly what we're doing. Don't worry about it. And they formed an 18-page document, which was one page on why you should sack Pochettino in my eyes, and I think it was 17 on why you shouldn't sack them. So I'm very much in the I'm very much in the camp of, and I say this very honestly, and I actually believe it, which is not something, and it's not just saying it as a football fan. I've actually put thought into it. I genuinely believe I could do a better job than these two sporting directors because they apparently do 16-hour days at work. But, clearly, they work hard, not smart. So, use 16 hours more wisely.
It's absolutely scary, really. I think in many ways, I think Todd Bowley's taken the flack because he was the man that put himself out there initially. Yeah. It sounds like he's taken a bit more of a backseat now, but he was the one that came out and maybe suggested this Premier League All-Stars game and stuff, and he sort of threw himself into it and made himself known. But since then, it's clear that there are tensions with the majority stakeholders in the club, and as a result, it's just mad seeing that each weekend there's a battle on the pitch, but also off the pitch as well in the boardroom, which in my mind it can't be an amazingly healthy environment. But look, you got a new manager in, and look, maybe I'm being ultra cynical, but Enzo Maresca, one season of experience managing in England, and he got promoted, but ultimately he's a rookie. Do you think that they picked him because they want a more malleable head coach? That's what they want, so that the board and the footballing team can impress their style on him and the team, rather than maybe employing a big name that will probably kick back a bit more.
That's exactly why they've done it. They've been very open about that as well. We want a more Mikel Arteta-esque figure, blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, well, what you're saying is you want somebody who's not got that much experience that can grow with the team, but because you want to be able to control them, sort of thing. I think, look, it works for him, it works for them. He's very much a coach who was keen on just focusing on the football. He's not that bothered by other things. He just wants to get the football dealt with. And it's tough because, I mean, we could talk about other times where this has happened with Chelsea. I mean, Frank Lampard, when he first came in, one season managing, I'm clutching at straws, I know. Don't worry about it. I can already see the comments section just slamming the keyboard. Oh, what is he talking about? So it's like I'm clutching at straws, I know, but I'm trying to draw comparisons from history. It's what I like to do. I think that realistically, Frank Lampard came in, but he had a more seasoned squad. He had the youth players, which he blended really well with seniority. Willian, Pedro, Olivier Giroud. There was some seriously older heads in there who had won things and understood the culture. And then you blend that with Lampard and bring in the youth products. Oh, it's a winning recipe. Chelsea's got top 4. Fantastic. In a season where no one expected it. In this case, you have no seniority. I think you have one or two players over 26. Not many. It's like, okay, right. Lads, what's going on? Like you kind of go, we expect you all to have the experience of winning things and understanding how everything works. but we also expect you to not have that so you can grow and be malleable. This is what I mean about this counterintuitive argument. It comes to loggerheads. So I'm very much in the mindset of, like I said, I'm not as emotionally invested this year. I'm very much just, I'm watching it. And obviously I'm very fortunate because it's part of my job. People will say I'm sounding incredibly selfish and self-centered. I don't at all mean it like that. I'm very much watching it from a professional perspective. My emotional attachment to Chelsea is not what it was, which in some cases is definitely a more healthy benefit. But,
especially when you're getting beaten 4-0 at Vitality Stadium and have a camera in front of your face having to do a post-match analysis.
It was cold as well that day. It was horrendous.
It was.
I hated those days. But yeah, no, for me, it was very much a case of just as long as, there is a growth, there are steps in the right direction, which I don't think this ownership struggle is going to help with. I think that's a big issue. Maresca is literally, as we recorded, just done his press conference and has been saying, it shouldn't affect how we do things. No, Enzo, it's going to. It is unfortunately going to be the case, especially with such a young squad. They're guys which are, not desensitized to life. It's a lot going on for them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure already. So, hopefully this can just go in the right way and resolve itself. And I honestly just wish Enzo Maresca all the best. I really want him to succeed. If he succeeds, Chelsea succeed. That will make me happy.
You've got a good squad on paper, though, right?
Yeah, but games aren't won on paper, mate, are they? I know it's a cliche, but it's like when it was like, on paper though, it's decent. It's like, it doesn't matter. We had a good squad on paper in the first season of the takeover. We finished ridiculously low in the league and we're poor. The paper doesn't matter. I look at the squad and I was there when we beat Wolves. I was there at the Palace game. It's very much a case of there are games where you see positives, but then you can also see the youth side. It's very much a case of they are all very, what's the word? It's not that they're malleable is the wrong word as well. So is naive, but I think you see what I'm getting at. It's like there's still a lot of learning to be done for them, and I really hope that it goes the right way. I think, look, on paper there are some fantastic players in there. There is some seasoned players. I think João Felix, obviously, he's been around a long time. Pedro Neto's had some time in the Premier League, and they still kind of fit that age bracket criteria. Christopher Nkunku, again, a player, been around a long time, knows what he's doing. But a lot of that squad, you're expecting players to make the step up from less quality into a side where the quality isn't there because they've not understood it, because all the players that understood the quality have already gone and they're just expecting the growth to happen. It's like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I think the Arsenal side of the late noughties, early 10s is a great example of that. On paper, really exciting young youth setup. Oh, yeah, these are really good players. Arsene Wenger's young guns. They did all right. That's purely because Arsene Wenger was a genius. All due respect to Enzo Maresca, he's not exactly Arsene Wenger, and I say that through gritted teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely true. So look, when you see the fixtures released in June, July, whatever it is, you see little old Bournemouth down on the fixtures. What's your first thoughts when you see Bournemouth at home or Bournemouth away? In this case, it's away, but do you have flashbacks or is it more positive memories when you see that?
It's a combination. I mean, but for me, it's all due respect to you guys, it's another game. It's like,
all right.
No, I don't mean like that. I look for Spurs, Arsenal, City. I look at those. If I see Bournemouth, I always like to look at it where you are in our run. So it's like if we're playing you after we played like two really big teams back to back and we've struggled, I'm like, God, guys, the vitality, that's gonna be a problem. But I mean, our record recently against you's been all right. It's not been bad at all. Having said that, for me, it's very much a case of look. I think it depends on the weather as well. If we've got you late on in the season, thumbs up. I'm like, result down on the beach, not a problem. Fish and chips in the sun. Results don't matter at that point usually. So you're like, sweet, crack on. When it's early doors, it's a bit like, okay, like last year, I thought we're either going to absolutely batter you, which we didn't, or it was going to be like it was where it was knocking on a door constantly, weren't going to get anywhere. if it's December or really cold, I forget it because I think about Glenn Murray at Stamford Bridge. I think about that 4-0. I think about those horrible games where I'm going, playing this lot around that period makes my blood boil. It's so annoying. But I mean, realistically, it depends on the time of year and the quality. I very much like if you're lucky enough to get a ticket, which I have been a couple of times. Unfortunately, I'm not at the moment because life's in the way. But it's all right. It's a fun ground to go to. I enjoy it.
Good man. All right. So, what is your prediction then for Saturday night's game? What are you going for? Come on, hit me with it.
8 o'clock kickoff. I'm not a man for predictions because usually if I do predict it, it goes wrong. So that's not something I'm going to do. But I predict. I mean, look, I really like you guys. I think that what you do against Everton, that's going to be game of the season probably, unless something ridiculous happens. Yeah. So you do have that edge to you. And your manager does have a massive chin, so I'm trying to figure out how that factors into it. I feel like it's going to be. I've got a draw. I reckon like a 1-1 draw. I don't think it's going to be a.
Is that enough for Chelsea?
Look, I no. Realistically, no, because it's going to be so tight at the top of the table. Around you look at Villa, Newcastle, us. Man United, all going to try and be vying for that last top 4 spot, and you need to win as many games as you can. I know it's cliche. I love Brian's gun, but I'm not that involved. I'm trying not to be that involved in cliches. But I very much am in the mindset that it's these sort of games that Chelsea need to win. And I'd say this with all the respect to it. I don't mean to sound disrespectful, because it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You talked about our squad being good on paper. On paper, Chelsea better than Bournemouth. Games aren't played on paper. We need to turn up and we need to do the job. And it feels like these sort of games with all the talk of Barclaysman, right? I feel like even though Bournemouth are not part of the Barclaysman vintage, we'd be very honest there. Yeah. You do have that about you where you do the basics very well. So if you do the basics very well, we might struggle because you got too many people that are like Twitter tacticals going, we need to invert the fullback to play trequartista in an 8.5 shape formation. I'm like, shut up, play the football, get the ball at the pitch, score the goal. That's very simple. That's all I want. So, love it. I just want us to go get the job done. I think it'll be a draw because of you guys being probably very difficult to break down, but I'm hoping we can get more. Love it. So, Louis, whereabouts can people catch your stuff? So you can find me on Twitter at Louis_Beneventi, at Louis Beneventi on Instagram as well, where I do really stupid shit. It's fantastic. It's great. I don't take life too seriously. Or you can find the pod that we do for Chelsea on the Chelsea Echo, and that's available on all good platforms. And give us a 5-star review if you enjoy it. Love it. Louis, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Cheers. Brilliant to chat to Louis there. Honestly, such a top man. He's got links with the local area as well, by the way. But yeah, sometimes with Back of the Net, right, we always like to be a personality-led YouTube channel where it's just important to have people that just speak passionately and authentically about their club. And with certain teams in the Premier League, it's very difficult to pick someone that we think comes across really well, because look, there are tons of Chelsea YouTube channels out there and you can try to pick a face and it's just like you don't really want someone that looks like they've recorded about 5 opposition previews that day already. You can see by his face how passionate he is about the club and doing his writing for them at the moment. He's a person that's had to separate himself a little bit from the sort of fandom that once was, but it's clear through his involvement that he wants to see the club succeed and his frustration with where it's going at the moment. But yeah, an absolute top guy, and we were so delighted and fortunate to have him on the channel as well, because I was a big fan of 100% Chelsea. So yeah, I really hope he can come back and do some stuff in the future. You never know. The door is always ajar on YouTube. He knows that. So make sure you do follow him on social media. I think he's going to be at a party on Saturday because he's been moving, and let's hope that party can be dampened by 10 o'clock. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Have another Peroni, it'll be fine. We want him to drown his sorrows rather than be in a celebratory mood. I've gone for 3-2. I'm sticking with it from yesterday's preview. But what do you think?
let us know in the comments down below. We truly appreciate your time. We'll see you at Dean Court tomorrow. Fan cams will be in the usual position, and we'll try to get them out before midnight, but either way there'll be a vlog on Sunday morning. So yeah, looking forward to bringing you that. Up the chairs. We'll see you at Dean Court.